day, then we realized they denied having any agents on the ground, and now it turns out there were dozens and dozens of agents, and we've all seen the videos.
And all of that is a lie. I don't know. What do we do? What do you think? Let's brainstorm this now that we don't have MAGA here. Are we sure that they're not dumb? Like, are they dumb or corrupt? How do we, like, this guy is the member of the oversight committee. If he doesn't know, then Jesus, fuck, he's got to go. The FBI had nobody on the ground. Nobody. They had people that were informants that went with their friends to January 6th. And then, because Trump wouldn't send in troops, the FBI sent in agents to try and help out. I don't know what to do with any of this. Does anybody know a Republican who would sit on stream with me for like 5 hours and just fact check shit? Maybe that's the way that we go. I had a crazy conversation last night, and I won't name names, but I had a long phone conversation last night with somebody who was Republican, and it went on a deep dive about somebody that watches the show semi-regularly. And they went on a deep dive about healthcare. And they started telling me things like, did you know that, for example, she said, did you know that with private healthcare, 30% of the money that you spend doesn't go towards healthcare? And I was like, yeah, I say that all the time. And then it made me realize that, like, there are people who hear universal healthcare, who hear the things that we talk about, and they just check out. But now, once their mind is open just a little bit, this whole thing falls apart. I do think that what's happening in these debate scenes and on these panels is that nobody's hearing anything. Bet it was Big Boat. It was not Big Boat or Tex. Well, that person isn't, I mean, maybe not really listening, but yeah, like, in fact, I'll tell you what they said, because they're on board with some sort of universal health care. But what they said is that their ideology was stuck. It was a fascinating conversation. I wish I had a transcript. But they said that their mind was stuck in paying for other people's health care is wrong, and that if they have to pay for health care, then nobody should get health care for free. And like they have to overcome that. They recognize now that was flawed. And it was based on what they said is like conditioning of the messaging that their parents and the people around them gave them, that this was wrong. And they even said, like, it's stupid because we are paying for everybody else's health care. We're already doing this. None of you have the name right. None of you know who this is. You can stop guessing. None of you know who this person is. It's not somebody that you would recognize their name. It's not somebody who's active in the comments. It's not somebody you know. But it's somebody that I find pretty thoughtful. And they said, like, that's really what it is. It's that I was conditioned that this was bad. So no matter what evidence I was given, I kind of just assumed that, like, I wasn't given the whole thing. Nobody gave me the whole picture. And even then, like, as the conversation ended, what they wanted, they told me something kind of like, this is where we had a disagreement. They're like, I actually think, now that I read it with an open mind, I love Kamala Harris's plan. I think her plan was great. And I was like, wait, what she advocated before or in the election? And they said the election. I was like, fuck, you're not there yet. We're not quite there yet, because they were like, I think that we need to have some sort of hybrid system, like a mix between private and government-funded healthcare. I was like, no, it's not there. That's not where we want to be. Econ Mike. Is Econ Mike that psycho who made the videos about me? Or is that a different person? That guy's a lunatic. The guy that would, like, rage message me at 3 a.m. So I've just been thinking about that all morning. Like, the amount of times that we've had this debate, how do you get somebody into an honest conversation about healthcare? And I think it takes, like, probably getting them to just read and ask themselves questions. My pet op, Mike? Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Sorry, that was a tangent.
Clothes.
In plain clothes.
And in Trump
why
gear.
lie about it? If there was nothing nefarious, why be dishonest about it? And I wonder if the January 6th committee members knew. Did Adam Schiff know? Did Jamie Raskin, who's the most dishonest member of Congress by far?
More so than Adam Schiff?
That would be a good race, but I'll give Raskin
This dude has told 47 lies in this clip, and he's calling people dishonest.
the edge in that. And at the end of the day, did they know? And they tried to go along with the cover-up, because having that many agents on the ground and then lying about it, that's a red flag in anybody's book.
Wow.
So there's a lot about January 6th that we still don't know. We may never know. But one thing we do know is the federal government wasn't honest about the number of plainclothes agents.
And
All right. Reminder, guys, I know it's small in here. It's not as chaotic, and when we cover and have these conversations, generally speaking, it's much harder to raise funds. We are crowdfunded still. It's still all the normal ways. We're a long ways away from that goal. If you can help out to knock out that goal, it'd be greatly appreciated. It's the normal ways. You got Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and no super chats here. I'm beginning to set up a tip jar. We may go away from super chats in general because YouTube takes like 30% of it. So, all right, let's get into some other stuff here. This is crazy. So, from now on, and I'm saying this because I think some people are going to be annoyed at who I'm about to play here. From now on, when we cover the Pentagon, we're going to have to rely on people like Matt Gaetz, because there's no journalists that are covering the Pentagon. It's a bunch of influencers who don't know what questions to ask, don't know what they're looking at. And Matt Gaetz, who served in Congress, at least knows what he's looking at. And he is here with, this is Pete Hegseth's deputy chief of staff. His name is, I forget his name, Joe something. Did I write it down? I think I did. Joe Casper is his name. Watch Matt Gaetz. First of all, I think Joe Casper might be drunk here. But watch Matt Gaetz just eviscerate the Pentagon with simple questions.
I do want to talk about some of the legacy platforms that I've long been a critic of. I'll start with the F-35. They cost about $100 million a copy. What percentage of the F-35 are fully mission capable today?
So that's a great question, Matt, and I appreciate you getting after it, because not enough.
Like, he's drunk, right? just the beginning of that. Oh, this isn't Joe Casper. This is Ricky Berea. I thought this was Joe Casper. Well, Ricky Berea. There it is. Sorry about that.
Not enough. It is the most capable fighter that we have right now.
When it flies.
When it flies, you're right. It is the most capable fighter. What we have right now, and you saw just last month in the acquisition speech, is a department and leadership that's willing to get after it, to challenge industry, to produce better.
Yeah, but what percentage of them can fly?
So
Why is it not failure for a platform to perform at less than 40% when it costs $100 million?
So, Matt, looking at it holistically, sure, you can throw out the number 40%.
What does that even mean? Looking at it holistically, you can throw out the number 40%. What does that mean, bud?
When you look at Operation Midnight Hammer, Operation Rough Rider,
Those weren't F-35 was not.
I think Operation Midnight Hammer is the when we bombed Iran. I'm pretty sure. Is that right? Let me know if that's correct. I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, that's the one on Iran.
It was not delivering the payload on Midnight Hammer.
but they were supporting, right? And so those B-2s wouldn't have gotten there without that. The airplane.
What would have stopped them?
There are plenty of surface-to-air missile systems that the Iranians have. We know that. We know
Did they shoot any of them?
No, they didn't, because we were so successful. And that platform, the F-35, is an amazing platform that can go after these systems. It is the most capable platform we have, Matt. And what we're doing right now is we have a plan to get to 80% mission capable.
Yeah, he's blitzed, right? He's absolutely blitzed. If he sounds like that all the time, if this is his A game, then I'm more concerned. I hope he is drunk. I hope that this isn't sober version of him.
By 2030. And what you know...
And if you don't, what will be the accountability for Lockheed Martin?
So we are holding Lockheed Martin to task each and every day.
What? What are the consequences? We are holding them to task each and every day. We are transparent and everything is perfect.
The Deputy Secretary of War and Mike Duffy, the Undersecretary for Acquisitions and Sustainment, is meeting with Lockheed.
For what? Hold on. What? For what?
Secretary for Acquisitions and Sustainment is meeting.
Acquisitions statement? That's a good point. Yeah, we'll find another clip to compare. Good idea. But what is he saying?
Mike Duffy, the Undersecretary for Acquisitions and Sustainment, is meeting.
Anybody? Oh, acquisitions and statements? All right, what did we say his name was? Ricky Berea, right? I knew a kid named Ricky Berea, and he was a fucking idiot and a drunk, so I wonder if the... Let's see. This is from a day ago.
Talked about was the media and some of its reports
Of work by the Inspector General. The Secretary of War is completely exonerated from every allegation that was put out there from the mainstream media on the garbage of Signalgate. It was a garbage story to begin with. The Secretary did not.
Is he wearing the same tie? Is this the same? It might be on the same day, actually. It's the same tie. I'll find a different video. Not a lot of video of Ricky Berea. Hey, Jen.
Okay. So I've got a YouTube stream up. If people are having a heart attack, so I have one up and going, so I can send screenshots of stuff from over there. But if anyone's having a heart attack, there is one currently, and I'll put it in the Discord. So
Don't go over there. It's better over here.
I'm just saying I just got it there. So
Yeah, no, you're doing the right thing. I'm just admonishing the people not to go there because we want them to stay here. I can't find any other video of Ricky Berea, but I do see a lot of people just saying he's drunk.
yeah, I haven't been listening, so I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about.
Oh, I can see the YouTube chat now, actually. How did you do that?
Can you?
Yeah.
I have OBS up on one of my screens, so I'm streaming it from OBS from my computer. I'm grabbing the Twitch video and streaming it to YouTube.
But how am I seeing the chat?
I don't know.
The internet is weird.
It's probably because your Twitch or your Streamlabs is linked to YouTube, and the YouTube is linked to the video we have. So.
All right, I can't find another video of Ricky Berea, guys. If you have one, send it to Jen on Discord. I don't know.
Meeting with.
So if you guys,
oh, sorry.
So people are mentioning there is a video over on YouTube. So if you want to send super chats, that's back up. So.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
Almost weekly.
Because they have the full system performance contract. There's no other contractor that's doing system performance work as a prime on the F-35, right?
That's correct.
And Lockheed built them. So Lockheed built them. Lockheed maintains them. Have they had any consequence for not being able to put more than 40% of them in full mission capability?
Absolutely. Under this administration, under President Trump's administration, they are being held to task. The previous administration, it was a joke.
So what are the consequences?
He is so drunk. I don't think there's no way that's a real person. There's no way he's not drunk.
So the consequences are they're here in the building each and every day. Contracts are being evaluated and reevaluated. We are not just looking at how many airplanes are we buying.
Airquanes?
Just looking at how many airplanes are we buying.
Airbaquanes. A drunk guy's taking questions for the Pentagon. Yeah, and a bad drunk. Yeah, like nobody talks like this.
Buying, but we're looking at parts, sustainment, reliability of the aircraft. We're picking and choosing. We have actually smart people who are getting after it right now to buy the right parts to make sure the aircraft are up and meeting the mission.
If I was debating this guy on TikTok, I'd be like, you got to go, dude. You're too drunk to be up here. Thanks, Leanne said happy Friday. And Denise said TGIF choo-choo.
Capable ratings that you are asking for. You're right. You're right.
Thanks,
what
Lise.
you have been pushing is the exact right thing. What you didn't have was an administration that wanted to get after it.
And we're getting after it. We're tying one on. We're throwing them back. This administration's good. Yeah, good SNL. Yo, SNL's going to have a heyday with that. If they ever find this, it was on OAN. I haven't seen this like widely circulated, but this guy's clearly drunk. All right. Sorry, I just gulped into the microphone. My bad. I hate when other people do that. Let's go. What time is it? We'll do the whole thing. So some of you send me stuff from Candace Owens from time to time. I don't cover a lot of what she's doing. I watch it, if we're being honest. I think it's funny. Right now, she's in an all-out war with Turning Point USA. She's accusing them of mismanaging or stealing funds. And Turning Point USA invited her to come do a debate about it. And she's like, yeah, I'll come. And then she backed out of it, which is probably a bad look for her. But Tim Pool accidentally is exposing exactly who he is, and he's getting absolutely dunked on for it, and it's about fucking time. I also want to point out this: Tim Pool has a skateboard company, and it's called, everything is like uncancelable. Some has like slurs on it. He sells skateboards with slurs as a side business. And Tim Pool can't figure out why all these other people on the right aren't just doing the bidding of Donald Trump. Because Tim Pool pretends to be independent, but this is all about helping Trump. So he's going to get really upset now with anybody on the right who is doing anything that makes the right look bad or calling out anybody on the right that looks bad. They don't like accountability over there.
Huey says, Tim, I work in construction and experience the same thing. My coworkers are all in on the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. If the Republicans lose in the midterms, I believe that Candace Owens is wholly responsible. She is one of the biggest podcasts on the right doing everything to go to war with the organization that helped get Trump elected. Turning Point, specifically, was going out and registering people to vote. Without Charlie, it's in...
Don't criticize the people that got Trump elected. That's what Tim Pool's telling you.
trouble. Turning Point needs to be able to go out and rally young people and register them to vote. And she's doing everything she can to destroy that. And that is going to, I suppose...
Thanks, MT Clark.
It's going to rip out the coffers on the right. There is no organization like Turning Point that exists anywhere else that has the resources and the reach. And without Charlie, I'm not sure that they can make it. But I can tell you this, Candace lighting a Molotov and throwing it through the window is not helping. And it's the most demoralizing thing ever.
Ever. Of all time. He's never been demoralized than when people started attacking Turning Point USA. What could be worse than that? It's the most demoralizing thing that has ever happened.
All of the fucking cowards on the right who are too scared to say anything about her. Because
all the cowards on the right are too afraid to stand up and say, stop picking on each other. This is about Trump, God damn it.
Tweets at me talking shit or whatever, and then a bunch of people come and flood our chat. I could give a single flying fuck.
By the way, she actually didn't talk shit. She said, I don't fucking care what you say. She's like, I don't give a fuck about Donald Trump. I don't give a fuck about the midterms. I'm going to tell the truth. That's what she responded to him. But Tim Pool is very angry. It's a woman. That's frustrating for Tim.
Give a single flying fuck. You can come and you can burn everything I have to the ground, and I will happily live in a van down by the river. I don't care to be number one. I don't need to be number one. What I care about...
Yeah, that's something that people say when they're sliding down the charts. I'm standing up for what's right, and what's right is licking Donald Trump's taint. And if you don't lick Donald Trump's taint, then you ain't right.
What is true and what will help this country and what works. And she is a fucking scumbag, okay? And she's getting worse every day. And she crossed the line. She continually crosses the line every day, insinuating that Turning Point literally killed the guy who made them all rich. And I hear this in the streets, and at a certain point, I'm like, holy shit.
Keep Chris Farley's name out your mouth. once again, it's the women of MAGA, the only people with any semblance of principles are the women. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's Candace Owens. Right now it's Anna Paulina Luna, who's trying to push people to be members of Congress to be banned from trading stocks. It's only ever the women, and it's like once a year, and everybody loses their fucking mind. But like the bar is so fucking low that like all you have to do is once a year do something like kind of cool, and you're better than the rest of MAGA.
We're gonna lose the midterms. We're gonna lose the midterms. Then we're going to lose in 2028, and it's because she's a piece of shit. Oh. Because instead of saying, guys, let's come together and figure out how to work together, she says the stupidest, retarded crap, and now everybody's running around divided and broken. For what reason? For literally what reason?
Transparency, I think, is what she's saying. Christina said, no, you quit, but I got 5 on it for you. Thank you, Christina. I'd never quit. I'm too legit to quit. Lee said, appreciate you, Jen. Empty Clark said, yes, he is drunk.
Now.
Yeah. Why does his voice sound like Timmy Nick Fuentes? I don't know. Tim's stuck because Tim is a paid propagandist. And Tim's audience has been driven by Trump. And Tim also almost certainly pays for bots. All of them do. For sure, all of them pay for bots. But Tim certainly does. Jamie said, happy Friday. Thanks for you. Thank you, Jen, for all you do. Tanya said, have a great weekend. Alyssa said, for the goal. Burnout Medic said, for the gift goal, even though there's no show today, have a good weekend and don't smash your computer. Somebody tell Burned Out Medic we're here. But also, fucking thanks for doing that, dude. I appreciate it. Somebody message Burned Out Medic either in Discord and TikTok and tell him to get his ass over here. Love to have him. All right. I'm just going to actually stay on this. This was the best breakdown I've ever seen of Nick Fuentes, and I think it's kind of important. This is, I'm trying to remember who this was. His name is, it's
actress
Coleman Hughes. I don't know much about Coleman Hughes. He works for the Free Press, which is Barry Weiss's organization. So I'm going to go ahead and say in advance that he was likely paid to do this. He was likely paid to do this video by Zionists, but I also think it's really fair, and I wanted to show it. So here's Coleman Hughes from the Free Press.
The legendary singer and actress Barbra Streisand once sued a photographer for putting a picture of her cliffside mansion on an obscure...
Let me actually preface this. That was a bad introduction. The reason I'm showing this is because we can't really ignore Fuentes. We can't ignore Fuentes because if we do ignore Fuentes, Fuentes is able to like slide and slither around and pretend that he's not a Nazi. And he's influencing a lot of unassuming people. People who don't recognize Nazism unless somebody's like wearing the uniform. And I think that that's why you're seeing this. Obviously, that's why the Zionists are going after him. But Nick Fuentes, to me, represents a danger because of who he incites. The worst people I know are groypers. Every time you go into a YouTube chat or a TikTok chat, or you see somebody saying the N-word or just being blatant, it's almost always a groyper. And he's making a lot of young kids feel comfortable. I have a friend who lives in Washington, and he was telling me about his kids, and it was an interesting story. Like his kids are like 21 and 17, I think, and all their high school friends, because they live in their mom lives in like a pretty diverse area in Washington. So in his group of friends, it's like him being a white guy is a minority, and most of his friends are black and Asian. And they were all over, and the dad was talking to the kids, and he's like, look, you guys are all out here like together, and you're saying racial slurs, and you're making fun of each other's ethnicity. Like, I was raised differently. I was raised that, like, you can't do that. Why are you so comfortable with this? And he said it was really telling, and he loved that for his kids, because he's like, the friends were okay with this. They were just saying, like, we know our friends, right? Like, this is the same as me saying, like, you've got a small dick, or like, you know, or you're 5'2". Like, for us, we're shit talking, but we know each other, so it's like, it's safe. We're safe. It's safe to do this around each other. The problem is, those same kids that are on the internet are going to see Nick Fuentes speaking the way that they speak to their friends and not understand the impact of it, and as specifically like the impact on politics. So yeah, they're normalizing. But I personally, like, I just in between friends, like, I don't really care about that, right? I think it's different. And one of the friends said, like, to me, I don't want to, like, I don't want to view this stuff as like I'm a victim. And that makes sense in his world. Like, he's a 19-year-old kid. That makes sense in his world. He doesn't feel like a victim. He hasn't yet felt any of the effects, probably, of like structural racism. But those groups of kids are running around in a very small bubble, whether it's a diverse group of kids or not a diverse group of kids, and they see Nick Fuentes and he speaks like them. So I'm looking about like I'm looking. Well, I understand what you're saying. I'm not condoning it. I'm talking about reality of what they're saying. This isn't a take. This is a reality of what they're doing, right? And what they're saying. I don't agree. I don't do that with my group of friends. I'm sure you don't do that with your group of friends. But this is the reality of younger kids. They hate their speech being silenced. They hate the idea that words can't be said, and they don't understand the impact of it. And we have to address that reality that there are, especially young men, feel this way. And if they turn on the TV and there's just somebody lecturing them about Nick Fuentes because he says bad words, that's not going to resonate with them. So that's why I want to talk about what he's doing and cover this in a way that's like, the outrage about Nick Fuentes shouldn't be, here are the words that he says. The outrage should be, here are the ideas that he promotes. Because those type of ideas permeate. And so that's why I want to show this video, because it shows like the ideas that he permeates and the real world harm. That's why they're starting off here with the Streisand effect. Because I really do, just unfortunately, I think it's reality that young men in this country do not give a fuck about how people say certain things. And until they understand the impact of those words, which they don't understand, then they won't think about like, oh, I'm going to be more careful with my words. So maybe the way I phrased it and presented it is coming off wrong, but that's the goal that I'm getting at here. I think that it has to be a more encompassing conversation about Groypers, about Tim Pool, about Alex Jones, about Tucker Carlson. Like, what are the actual ideas that they're pushing, rather than that word is offensive, let's try and cancel it, tell a kid never to listen to them. Because if that kid is saying the same stuff in his group that Nick Fuentes is, then he's never going to have anybody. He's never going to see any message that says, here's the real world impact of what Nick Fuentes is doing. Does that make sense? So just to be clear, I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that you should talk that way. I'm not saying that it doesn't have an impact. I'm not saying that we should promote it. What I am saying is that we shouldn't only talk about the word. We shouldn't only talk about the slur. We should also, if we're going to react to it, we need to be able to build upon this word is like saying these words publicly is a problem, and here's why. Like, here are the real world implications, and that's what I liked about this video.
The legendary singer and actress Barbra Streisand once sued a photographer for putting a picture of her cliffside mansion on an obscure website, arguing that it threatened her privacy. Her actions backfired spectacularly. Before the lawsuit, only 6 people had downloaded the photo, but after the lawsuit, hundreds of thousands of people had seen it. The Streisand effect has since become a generic term for when an attempt at censorship achieves the opposite of its goal. If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture.
Jamar said, "How dare you, Jay? I say the N-word all the time, and I'm not a groyper. I'm just black." Good point. Thank you, Jamar. And said also, "Thank you, Jay."
Picture of Nick Fuentes. Fuentes launched his career as a college freshman in 2017 with a barely watched show called America First. In Fuentes' telling, he was a mainstream Republican in high school. Then Donald Trump's rise radicalized him against immigration, and the experience of being ostracized by fellow Republicans for questioning Israel radicalized him against Jews as a whole. Whatever the truth of this origin story, it didn't take much for Fuentes to transform himself from a mainstream conservative into...
Big Stefan, you said you have a 25-year-old male family member, and I think he knows not to use racist slurs and inappropriate language. Do you guys mean white guys younger than that? It's not about age. It really is about, like, it's where people grow up. It's culture. I tell this story a lot, but like my ex, I guess, sister-in-law pulled me aside at Thanksgiving 4 or 5 years ago and was like, I can't get my kids to stop saying the N-word. And like, if people are running in these conservative circles, the N-word is thrown out there all the time. This is casual conversation with them, and they don't understand the impact. And I can just tell you from experience, like, if you just say, don't say that, it offends me, they might not say it around you anymore, but they'll also probably ostracize you, and they'll also think that you're soft. So the messaging has to get through to them that, like, there's an impact there.
To a lover of dictators, including communist ones, an across-the-board bigot, and a textbook anti-Semite.
I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's.
In technical terms,
Oh, he's an
shit-faced.
admirer.
Thanks,
As he became more extreme, Fuentes began to experience what would become one of the most complete cancellations ever consummated in American culture. In his freshman year, he got harassed for wearing a MAGA hat on campus. After participating in the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, his network dropped his show, and a deluge of death threats prompted him to drop out of Boston University. By early 2020, he had been banned from Twitch, Reddit, and YouTube.
I will say that at this time, I thought that's the end of Nick Fuentes. And I think that's why this story is important. Because that's what a lot of us would want to happen. And that, I think a lot of people, when they saw that happen, they're like, good, the world has spoken. We've decided Nick Fuentes cannot have a voice. But that's not what happened. He didn't go away. So we have to address the reality that that's the country we live in.
After he appeared at the January 6, 2021 riot, and there was no evidence that he actually entered the Capitol, Fuentes was banned from streaming on DLive, and his bank account was temporarily frozen by the Department of Justice as part of what it said was an investigation, though charges were never brought and his accounts were unfrozen months later. By the end of 2021, he had been placed on the TSA no-fly list, which is generally reserved for terrorists, as well as banned from Twitter, PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Shopify, Stripe, Coinbase, and even Airbnb. Now, as a classical liberal, it's not hard for me to hold two thoughts in my head at once. The first is that Nick Fuentes is an American citizen with the right to free speech and should not be targeted by the authorities for his views.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for helping us knock out that gift goal.
And while social media and payment platforms are well within their rights to drop him if he violates their terms of service, it seems to me that the ham-fisted attempt to erase him from public life only drew more attention to his ideas in the long run, just as the Streisand effect would predict. However, the second thought is just as crucial. Just because he got viciously canceled doesn't mean that people should listen to what he has to say now.
Hey, Johnny.
Nick Fuentes is a force for evil in American politics. He hates minorities, he hates women, and most important of all, he hates the version of America envisioned by the Founding Fathers and actually wants to replace it with a religious dictatorship. If conservatives are actually trying to...
This is the part that I think, like, when we talk to Groypers, they don't understand. Andrew Wilson's crowd's the same way. What they see and what they like is they like the debate stuff. They like the insults. They like calling people out. They like using the R slur. They like trolling. That's the part that they love. What they don't see is the religious indoctrination control factor. And even though Fuentes says this regularly, and he said it just the other day, like, it's order is most important. It's order before liberty. We have to have order first, and then we can have liberty. That they don't listen to. That doesn't seem to sink into their heads. Every time we talk to a Groyper, they're surprised when we bring that up. We're like, I don't really think that's what he's about. Because for them, it's all about the stuff that they find more fun.
Conserve what is good in the American political tradition and prevent
thanks, Electric Dad. I appreciate that.
Radical changes in direction, then they should recoil against Fuentes-ism with every atom in their bodies. The words racist and misogynist have been abused to the point of meaninglessness in American discourse over the past decade. Social media activists have cried wolf so many times that very few people now bother to listen.
I have a little bit different take on that. The take that I have on this is that anytime somebody uses racism or misogyny or bigotry and they get caught lying about it, it becomes the biggest story in the world, and that's what everybody remembers. What's the dude that faked getting beat up? The actor, what was his name? I remember that guy's name. That's my take on this. I don't think that it's necessarily overused. I think that in a 24-hour-a-day news cycle, we are very reactionary, and we're also slow to apologize and retract stories. Jussie Smollett, thank you. And so, like, with Jussie Smollett, there were so many people who went out there, and they're like, I'm going to die on this hill. And then when it turned out to be fake, people had a hard time apologizing, and people didn't want to apologize and say, like, it's hard to pull back at that point and be like, oh, I want to pull back, but I don't want to diminish the fact that these are real problems. I don't want to diminish the fact that this happens to others, so I'll apologize for the Jussie Smollett thing. But then, Fox News has a clip of CNN, MSNBC, a bunch of people on TikTok, left-wing creators, all of them coming to the defense of Jussie Smollett, and they're like, see, they never wait. And so then, from then on, every time one of these stories breaks, the story is, oh, this is just another Jussie Smollett. And then it doesn't matter. A month later, you find out that it was a justified story. The outrage was justified, but their news cycle has already abandoned it. And they spent the first week just saying, oh, this is just more outcry. Remember this time when they lied about it? Remember this time when they lied about it? And so I think that I try and do that sometimes with the show, but being reactionary is part of what has given rise to Nick Fuentes. Our unwillingness to sometimes wait for a story to come out. Yesterday, the story came out that they got the pipe bomber. And I think I might have even said this. I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch. But when it first came out, there was a picture of, what do we say? I forgot what his name was. It was like the most white name. I did say it, actually, now that I think of it. We said that the pipe bomber was a white guy. And the reason I said it was a white guy is because everybody had listed him as a white guy. And then now it turns out it's a black guy. And there's clips of all of these people, Jake Tapper saying he was a white male from suburban Virginia. And so now they all get to play this clip, and they'll all play this clip about how everybody's too reactive about race, and they wanted it to be a white guy because, and now they get to say, like, everybody on the left is lying about this story. So I think, like, there is some, everything Nick Fuentes has done, Nick Fuentes should own, but we also don't live in, we don't live in a world where, like, our words don't have impact. And being this reactionary sometimes to stories can lead to, in the future, people not believing us.
But the point of the boy who cried wolf parable is that eventually the wolf arrives. And when it does, nobody is as alarmed as they should be. Like Aesop's wolf, Nick Fuentes has indeed arrived. And just as in the fable, mainstream conservatives do not seem appropriately alarmed, as demonstrated by his recent friendly appearances on Tucker Carlson's show, as well as other popular podcasts like Dave Smith's Part of the Problem, the Red Scare podcast, and the PBD podcast. How has Fuentes achieved this remarkable infiltration into the culture? Well, it's all been made possible by the fact that he's successfully playing a double game, and the people giving him friendly interviews are enabling this. There's not one Nick Fuentes, there's two. There's the unfiltered Fuentes who rants directly to his followers on Rumble and can barely go 5 minutes without saying something heinous about Jews, blacks, Hispanics, or women.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all.
I think we know that it's the guy now. He's hired a lawyer. I think I guess that's fair. I haven't necessarily seen him, but there's a lot of information now. We have the address, so they know who lived there. I think we know who the guy is now. By the way, now stories coming out today, multiple sources are saying that this guy believed the election was stolen in 2020 and that he supported Trump. So now it's like, now this is where you wait. Because now if the story comes out that he's a Trump supporter, then you have these folks all have egg on their face. And everybody's just too impatient to wait for the story to actually come out. Because when we hear a story, we want to just point at all the people that drive us nuts. And we have to be honest about that. I do it, you do it, we all do it. We all react to things too quickly, and then we get egg on our face, and we just propel this division over and over and over again, to the point where, like, Nick Fuentes, and I think this is really the point, like, Nick Fuentes was somebody that the country universally despised like 6 years ago. And now it's like a 50-50 split. We became so divided and so one-sided that, like, the right now, they don't care who anybody is. As long as you're on the right, they got you. And I think that there's a role that we play in that by being too reactionary sometimes. And whatever percentage that has an effect, we've got to own that a little bit.
Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
This version of...
But then they'll say, oh, but Nick Fuentes, he's Hispanic. He's not racist. Look, he went on Tucker, and Tucker Carlson said, do you think that white people are better than black people? He's like, no. And Tucker Carlson asked him if he was an anti-Semite, and he said no. That's the problem with these sweetheart interviews. They're acting like it's a transparent interview. They're like, all right, let's just do this. We're going to pull no punches. Are you anti-Semitic? No. Okay, well, he says no, guys, so let's move on.
Nick Fuentes verbally abuses his followers in the way that an insult comic might do, and they love it. He doesn't act particularly religious, and he certainly isn't preachy. He's laughing and smiling the whole time, and his followers basically feel like they're hanging out with a crass but hilarious buddy, listening to him take the piss out of everybody, including them. Then
I'm going to tell you, my youngest brother, who doesn't follow politics, he sees clips of Nick Fuentes. He's like, yeah, I think he's funny. He's never watched his show. He just sees clips. But when I say something about, like, somebody in politics, he thinks Nick is in politics but is kind of funny. That's the take that most of these folks have. Whatever we want to say, he resonates with especially younger white dudes. And we can either address that and try and fix it, or we can hope it changes on its own. For a while, I just hoped it changed on its own. Admittedly, I was reluctant to cover Nick Fuentes. But now I think that the pushback has to be real, and I think it has to be off, and we have to accept the fact that he's mainstream on the right. He's one of two of the biggest people on the right. It's like, or three. It's like Tucker, Candace, and Nick Fuentes now.
There is the comparatively sane character that Nick Fuentes plays on the podcast circuit. This version of Nick Fuentes is a serious Catholic. He's clearly read lots of books. He's earnest. He doesn't joke or curse very much. His vision of the...
Joseph, that's what I'm saying. You know that he's not funny because you're seeing this. You have context. But when people aren't getting... That's the point of this clip. Like, people aren't getting the full context of who he is. So if they just see something that he says, like, there's probably nothing I'm going to see from Nick Fuentes that is going to make me laugh because I already know who he is. And I think that when he makes cruel jokes, he's actually a bigot. Right? Like, if somebody makes kind of a cruel joke, like... You know, Jen and I have dark humor. Sometimes, like, we'll make cruel jokes at each other. But I know that Jen cares about me, and I care about her, and I don't want harm. And it's just a way that we, like, deal with our own dark humor. If they don't have that context about Nick, they're not seeing that. So I get it, but we got to be able to step, I think, outside of ourselves sometimes and recognize that if you're here and you're watching this show right now, you're really informed. You spend a lot of time informing yourself. You know who these people are. You know their history. You know what they say. And so it's easy, like, for you, it seems black and white, but most people are coming across Nick Fuentes in 20-second sound bites. They don't even really know what his politics are. They might just see something that their friends say, and, you know, these kids are gamers. If you've ever gamed, you know, like, it's not exactly, like, politically correct when you're playing Fortnite. And so that they see somebody that is kind of like them and their friends, and again, they don't understand the impact, and they don't know who Nick is. So for them, it's funny.
The country has much more to do with preserving...
Yeah, exactly, Benny. It was the same with Charlie Kirk. All these people, when Charlie Kirk died, they're like, I've only seen him talking about Jesus. I love him. And then you show them all these other clips. They're like, these must be out of context. That's not who he is.
What he describes as a white suburban American way of life, think Little League baseball and hot dogs on the 4th of July, than with a hostile theocratic takeover of the federal government.
There is a legitimate need to reassure people, and this is kind of what I've been doing on these podcasts, that we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to harm anybody. Right. We just want to put America first.
All of this brings up a few questions about Fuentes' sincerity. First, if his main fear is that the next generation of Americans won't be white enough, then why does he tell his followers that modern women are too annoying to bother with and that married men are cucks?
Fuck you.
That's an easy thing to say when you're repulsive to women, right? It's easy for him to hate women because he's terrified of them and they're repulsed by him. So what's he going to do? Blow his chances with a woman?
Fuck you, pussy whip bitch. Yeah, all these people posting this like wife and husband content. It's so funny when my wife tells me to do stuff. I'm such a pussy. Ugh. Imagine such a pathetic existence.
Shouldn't he?
That's a wild thing. Nick regularly instructs his fans to go do things like comment on people's tweets or videos, or go like he literally directs all of them, and he's like, "You guys are such pussies if you love your wife, but do exactly as I say."
Be encouraging his followers to get along with women, marry, be fruitful, and multiply. The immigrants he's so worried about will certainly be doing just that. And more importantly, why do Rumble Nick and Podcast Nick seem to be two totally different people? While it's normal to come across a bit differently in different contexts, the two versions of Nick Fuentes seem to have different beliefs altogether. Podcast Nick, for example, insists that he's a patriotic American who just wants to put our country first. But Rumble Nick believes that America is an evil country, that, quote, Americanism is a heresy in the Catholic Church, that we must replace American democracy with a dictatorship and ultimately enforce what he calls Catholic Taliban rule in America.
That's why we need dictatorship. That's unironically why we need to get rid of all that. We need to take control of the media or take control of the government and force the people to believe what we believe, or force them to play by our rules and reshape the society.
This is Fuentes. It's Andrew Wilson. Somebody mentioned an Instagram account. Which one did you say it was? Woman propaganda on Instagram. I mean, I follow enough right wingers on Twitter and Instagram that I see it too. And it's just these generic things like making women look bad. It sees, I'm assuming that it sees that like I engage with right wingers, and it doesn't know what I'm saying. It doesn't know that I'm mocking them. So then it just starts showing me like all this woman hating shit. And then they're like, there's a male loneliness epidemic. And that's a real thing. We do have to address that. The male loneliness epidemic is real, but it's not caused by women. It's caused by people influencing, Myron Gaines, Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes. They've created they've created this narrative that they are superior and women should be obedient, and now women are repulsed by them, and now they're getting angry, and there's going to be repercussions for that. It's not this isn't going anywhere. It's not going to change overnight. We can't ignore it away.
Podcast Nick will tell you that he's celibate because, like a good Catholic, he's waiting until marriage. But Rumble Nick will
Destiny might say otherwise.
Make it crystal clear that his celibacy has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the fact that he finds women to be, quote, fucking annoying.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like, you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You fucking talk too much, you're a bitch.
Podcast Nick will argue that Christians cannot sanction racism and will approvingly cite Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female.
It does sound like he's gay, right? It does sound that way. There's a lot of people are making accusations in the chat. There was an accusation that he hooked up with Destiny. He did have like some adult material, man-on-man adult material pop up on his stream. It does sound like that. Sounds like it's a real thing that people are deeply closeted, so they hate women because they hate themselves because that they might be gay. So they put that abuse on women. That's why I'm not with women. It's not because I'm gay. It's because they're annoying and fat and talk too much.
For ye are all one in Christ Jesus. Rumblenik will viciously mock liberal Christians for citing this exact same Bible quote and explain that he would rather Christians didn't read the Bible at all than use that specific passage against him.
This is where we get like liberals saying, but the Bible says neither Jew nor Greek, but the Bible says, this is where you get liberals using it against us.
Podcast Nick will roll his eyes at the accusation that he's a Nazi. Like the character...
I would even go further than that, proud of this. He's a modern shock jock in delivery, but he's just a Nazi. He's just an absolute Nazi. Everything about Nick Fuentes is Nazism. He's not speaking German.
Mark Ravenhead from Succession, he'll make you seem ridiculous for even asking the question. But Rumblenik thinks that Hitler was, quote, really fucking cool. He believes that probably only 200,000 or 300,000 Jews were killed by the Nazis, definitely not 6 million. And just last week he said, and not for the first time, that he finds the notion of Nazi gas chambers hard to believe.
People talk about, well, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow. Because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
Rumblenik also argues...
No. Ironically, part of the opposition to Hitler in the United States, part of it had to do with him being a socialist. America was slow to join World War II. They didn't really. We were pretty anti-Semitic here in this country. We still had conservatives. This rehashing of the Holocaust in World War II to make it seem like this was just all a way to give Jewish people more power is a wild thing to do. Like Hitler tried to erase them because he said they were taking too much power, and now in America, decades later, you have Americans like, oh, really? They're lying about how bad it was so they could get power. It's the same exact trope.
That the Jews, quote, are responsible for every war in the world. It's not even debatable at this point, which could literally be an entry in Joseph Goebbels' diary. Podcast Nick frames his opposition to interracial marriage mainly as a personal preference that wouldn't affect anyone else. Rumblenik believes that the Jim Crow system was actually superior to the integrated society that we have today, the logical implication being that we should bring it back.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry.
How are you going to have white kids? How are you even going to have kids? Corvette says, if cows go moo and sheep go baa, what do pigs say? I'll make America great again. But again, if I talk to a Groyper, the Groypers will be, he's not racist. He lives in Chicago. He was just on a podcast recently where he's talking about how he lives in Chicago. And now suddenly he was siding with the Palestinians. Because why? Because Israel is run by Jews. That's why. He hates Jews and he hates black people. And this is all insecurity. But when you are insecure, if you can convince other lonely men like you that it's not actually insecurity that you have, that you actually should be confident, and it's everybody else not accepting you that is the problem, you become very powerful. He's telling these kids what they want to hear every day. He's taking away any responsibility that they have for the situation that they're in. And he's saying, don't worry about it, dudes. It's actually not your fault. Look over here. Look at all of us. We all get along. We're all cool dudes. A lot of dudes here. I'll point that out. Almost exclusively dudes here. But none of these things that are happening in your life are your fault. It's because of women. It's because of Jews. It's because of black people. It's because of immigrants. And the only solution to this, he says, because I can't figure out a different way, the only solution is we've got to take power over them. We have to remove them. And we have to make an entire community of us, just people like us, and then everybody will be happy. But remember, kids, it's not your fault. And by the way, send me some money, would you? And he makes a lot of fucking money, which is a reminder, you guys can send me money too. If we knock out that gift goal, it'd be greatly appreciated. Electric Dad said, does Fuentes think he's white? Fuentes, I mean, he's obviously white, right? He's obviously white. But when you ask him if he's a white nationalist, or you ask his followers, they go, oh, no, he's Hispanic. So he obviously thinks he's white. But unless he's being called racist, then he's like, oh, I'm Hispanic, which he's white presenting. He's white. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what you're white. You're clearly white.
Racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian.
Yeah, good point. Hitler was an Aryan. Nick isn't white. Not much different. It's the same fucking game.
I don't give a fuck.
Podcast Nick wants to reassure Tucker Carlson's audience, for instance, that, quote, we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We just want to put America first.
But I think he's white. He says he's Hispanic, but like, Spanish settlers were white. Nick is white. That's how he presents as white. You get the benefit for being white. It's not like white privilege is something where it's like, do I have it? And they're like, oh, well, looks like here that your father is Hispanic, so you don't get no. If you're presenting white, he's white.
Rumble Nick routinely says things like,
we're in a holy war, and I will tell you this. Because we're willing to die in the holy war, we will make them die in the holy war. They have no future in America. The enemies of Christ have no future in this world.
Lest there be any doubt about his violent intentions, Rumble Nick went on this unironic rant in January 2024.
So many of the people that
an occult say whatever you want about religion,
at the high levels
Judaism,
of society,
Christianity,
specifically among
Islam.
the Jews. So many of the people that
I would say religion, Judaism, Christianity.
He's
Islam,
talking about the occult, but
what he's complaining about is a cult mentality. He's runs about cult. The occult, but what he's complaining about is a cult mentality
and the destruction on the country. They are evil doers. They are people that worship false gods. They are evil doers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death.
Jen, people on YouTube are saying their screen is black. I don't know what's going on. I don't have control of that. Jen will have to check that.
Death penalty. Straight up. They must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country.
Dude, this is proof. I want you to know, this is proof. If the stream on YouTube is running from Jen's computer. It is not running from my computer. We may have to have a chat with, it's time to start talking about whether or not people are fucking with our stream. Right? How is it that I get banned on TikTok every day? We have problems there. We get censored on YouTube all the time just from copyright shit. I know, I hear you, Johnny, but we don't have these problems over on Twitch.
It's I know what it was. I accidentally opened up a different window. It's
okay,
fine.
never mind. There goes my conspiracy theory. Take it all back.
So there's fun fact that I have. It streams better using Microsoft Edge from a window, and I had Google Chrome up, and that's what got it confused.
Oh, maybe
so it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Somebody said, "Yeah, I know you can't listen to Nick Fuentes anymore. I get it, and if you need to check out. But it sucks. We have to cover this guy. This is who we're up against right now. I've got a daughter. I don't want this guy influencing men. I'm going to feel like a complete failure if I don't push back on this. So I hear what you're saying, but as a dad with a daughter, with a platform, I think it would be stupid of me not to push back on this wherever I can.
Jesus' country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
So Nick Fuentes is essentially a two-man operation. Rumble Nick energizes his core fans by attacking minorities, attacking women, and attacking America. And then Podcast Nick runs interference with the wider media, framing his sincerely racist rants as out-of-context clips.
I'm with you, Renthead.
Confident that most of, say, Tucker Carlson's audience will never see his Rumble streams, and thus will never realize that adding context usually makes his clips sound worse, not better. By playing this double game...
Chris said, Fuentes is as straight as Tex is a decent human.
Nick Fuentes ends up garnering sympathy from that wider audience while still keeping his Groyper base energized. To make an analogy, it's Rumble Nick who commits all the crimes in private, but it's Podcast Nick who shows up to the televised court date clean-shaven in a three-piece suit. I want to go out on a limb and suggest something that I can't prove. Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble.
So this is something that I grew up with as a Mormon. I call it real-world Mormonism. And Mormons do this all the time. Everybody grew up in my family. They all pretend that, like, they go to church, they say all the stuff that they say. They go to the temple where they do secret handshakes, where they dress up in bizarre clothing and they do all these rituals. And then in public, they'll lie about it. Mitt Romney lied about it when he was running for president, and none of us cared. So there was a famous, I don't remember, I think it was 60 Minutes maybe, who asked him about, did he ever make any blood oaths? Because one of the criticisms of him was, are you going to be more loyal to the Mormon church or to your role as president if you win? And the question was asked, like, well, didn't you take a blood oath with your church? Didn't you threaten to cut out your tongue? And he's like, no, that never happened. It absolutely happened. He absolutely did that. And Mormons were upset, not that Mitt lied, but that somebody had the audacity to ask that question. They do the same thing with polygamy. I don't know how conscious it is with Nick because I can't speak for him, but I can tell you that I was raised in a way that there were certain parts of my religion that I was outwardly to present and outwardly to talk about, and there were parts of my religion that I was instructed, in fact, sworn to secrecy to not discuss. When I was a Mormon missionary, there were things we were not to discuss with the people that we were teaching. We didn't tell them about polygamy. We didn't tell them about the murders that had been committed. We didn't tell them that Joseph Smith was a convicted criminal. We didn't tell them that the Mormons were committing crimes and getting run out of states. We didn't tell them early on about the fact that you'll have to pay 10% of your money. We didn't tell them about all of this stuff. In fact, I was 19 years old the first time I went through the Mormon temple where you do the secret handshakes and the oaths, and nobody was allowed to tell me what happened until I was in there. You're sworn to secrecy. So when I went in, I didn't know what was about to happen. And the first thing that happened to me was I stripped down and I had a robe over me, and some creepy old dude took olive oil and put it on his finger, and he touched, I think it was like here, I think it was like on my head, and then like it was to bless you. And part of it was like bless your loins, which he took the olive oil like right up near the crease, like in my groin, right next to my balls. And everybody around me is just acting like it's normal. And then you go into this room, and the women go on one side and the men go on the other side, and you're dressed up in these costumes. You have like this weird you look like a baker, and then you just start doing all these like rituals. And I remember looking across, like, there's my mom just doing it, and there's my dad, and nobody's making eye contact with you. They're all staring ahead, and they're just like, this is what we do. And everybody does it with a fucking smile on their face. And then you're like, okay, I guess this is what we do. And then at the end of that, when you're all in costume, you go, and there's like this big, they call it a veil, but it's just a white curtain. And on the other side of the curtain, there's somebody that you can't see. And you lean in and they ask you things. They ask you about like the secret handshakes. And then you reach, there's like a hole through the curtain, and you reach through the hole and you do the secret handshakes with the person. And then once you're done with that, you can go into the next room, which is this beautiful room they call the celestial room, where there's mirrors on both sides. And so it looks like you can see for eternity. Like you look and it's just you all the way through. And there's your family and they love you and they're like, wasn't that wonderful? How great is that? And you're just like, fuck, yeah, I guess it was great. And then they take you out to dinner and everybody just acts like you didn't do this whole fucking cult ritual. And at the time, I'm telling you, like at the time, it didn't even register to me that was weird. Because everybody else around me was acting like it was normal. So I can't speak to Fuentes here or the people doing this But what I can tell you is that this is what religious people do. Scientologists do the same thing. Catholics do the same thing. Muslims do the same thing. Everybody pretends that their religion isn't fucking weird when they're out in public because they want that religion to be viewed as like as not weird, as acceptable. So we all do this to some extent. I think my biggest disagreement with Coleman here is that he obviously has an agenda and he's making some leaps. But whether Nick Fuentes knows this is what he's doing or doesn't know what he's doing, it doesn't matter to his people. Because if you tell his people Nick knows that he's doing this, they will not fucking care. I don't exactly know how to win this battle other than talking about it all the time and consistently not shying away from talking to groypers. And I feel like as a father and as somebody who escaped a cult, I can't say you're gross, you're ostracized, because if I ostracize them and don't push them, then they're going to go back to the echo chamber. That's why I don't ban groypers in the chat. It's why for a long time I talked to Tex until it was clear that he was like trying to physically do harm to me. It's why I get criticized regularly for having too much leeway for these people. It has absolutely nothing to do with me wanting to elevate their position. It has everything to do with the fact that he's bringing up here, that the more you hear Nick Fuentes speak, the more context you get with Nick Fuentes, the more obvious who he is becomes. And I don't think it's obvious to a lot of people that follow him, especially the ones that don't watch the show every day. The casual followers don't know this. And so now they're mainstreaming him, and they're like, look, he's just like us. And they did this with Trump. Trump was ostracized at the beginning with the Republicans, and then eventually he just started picking people off, and they're like, look, he's just like us. You call me racist, and I'm not racist. And here we are 8 years later, and they're just openly doing racism now. They're just openly doing it, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. But 8 years ago, the shit that people are saying, like, imagine 8 years ago, before Trump, a president pointing at a political rival and using the R slur on them. Game over. But now the whole party's okay with it. Because Trump, who they support, became a victim. He brought them into his victim complex. He said, you're all victims with me. We're all in this together. And I think it was Casso that said this on TikTok. He blew my mind the other day when he was talking about like misogyny and how white men will never care about any sort of bigotry, about ableism, any phobia, racism, whatever you want to say. They won't care about any of that until they see themselves and women as equals. It blew my mind when Castle said that, because I've never thought of it that way. But of course these men who, like, men are men, and the reality is we think a lot about sex. If you can't respect the person that you're going to spend your life with and create a family with, if you're always going to think you're a little better than that person, nobody's more intimate with you than your spouse. That's probably the person that you love the most. So how the fuck, if you think you're, like, you hear J.D. Vance, you hear Charlie Kirk, but they're like, the woman must submit to the husband. Well, of course, why the fuck would they care about anybody else? The person they love the most, they see themselves as greater than. So all these other things, these accusations of racism, bigotry, they don't fucking care. Because they, like, even if they don't know it, they've put themselves on a pedestal where it's white men above everybody else. It's white men, then probably white women or whatever women they choose to date, and then everybody else. And until they see themselves and women as equal, the racism, it'll all continue to happen. I tell you, it was one of the most enlightening moments of my life when Casso said that. I don't know if any of you were in there, but I had never thought of it in that way, and it was brilliant.
I'm not pulling this out of thin air. Nick Fuentes has indicated that he has political ambitions. At the same time, he openly admits that his actual views are not popular enough to win a national election, and that his Groyper movement will never be big enough to take power by force. His implied plan, in other words, is to soft-pedal his extreme views just enough to build a large following, large enough to actually win an election, and then remove the mask and begin implementing his extreme ideas at the first available opportunity. We've seen this playbook before. When the history buff Daryl Cooper first sprang into the mainstream on Tucker Carlson's show, where he claimed that Winston Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War,
It's crazy.
it immediately touched off an argument about whether Cooper was really a Nazi sympathizer. His critics believe that he obviously was. I mean, why else would he be regurgitating long-debunked Nazi talking points? But his defender...
I see my daughter every single day, Brandon. Every single day. What kind of human being are you that you come in here and say some shit like that? Normally, I'll ignore some shit like that. I see my daughter every single day. She sleeps at my house multiple times a week whenever she wants to. She gets to make those decisions every fucking day. There's not a human being in my life that I spend more time with than my daughter. You ask a single one of my friends how often they see me since I had a daughter. Never. Never. I don't hang out with my friends. The only time I do anything but hang out with my daughter is when she has other plans. So you can go and fuck yourself for that. And she's way cooler than you and smarter than you. But even for those dads who see their daughter every other weekend, still fine. But every fucking day I see my daughter. Every fucking day. And you are now banned forever. Somebody take care of Brandon. Thanks.
Claimed that he was just a good faith history buff given to occasional hyperbole. And they had a point. There was plenty of smoke, but no fire. Then, sure enough, the proof came. Mother Jones unearthed a comment.
Fuck you, Brandon. Fuck you. Gone forever. You little bitch. What kind of bitch shit is that to bring up a father's kid? Why? Some of these people, man.
That Cooper had allegedly made years earlier under an anonymous username on the white nationalist website Countercurrents. Quote, "A movement like this needs to operate at various levels, from the intellectual core that remains terrifying and offensive to the general population right up until the big shift, on up to covert supporters slipping occasional language and subversive information into conversation and normie media," Juggernaut Nihilism wrote. "Think of how most people you know got here. It wasn't from basic American ideology to reading Mein Kampf and then boom, they're on board. It's a process, and you have to initiate people without scaring them off and without blaming them for being scared off. The human mind works the way it works, and the enemy studies it carefully, controls the education system, and dominates the media." In other words, everyone who suspected that Cooper's contrarianism was really meant to be a gateway drug to Nazism was spot on. It's rare.
I don't know if any of you guys remember this guy. Tucker got a lot of heat for this. When he first left Fox News, this is one of the first interviews he did on his podcast. And the first things Tucker did, and this should tell you exactly who he is, before he even really started it, he went over and he did a puff piece for Vladimir Putin, and then he brought on Nazi apologists. And now he's like, "I'm just asking questions." No, you set the stage, dude. You told us what audience that you were going after. These folks need to go unchallenged or challenged everywhere they go.
The world of public intellectuals that we get such a perfect confirmation that a bad faith actor is indeed acting in bad faith. With Nick Fuentes, we don't need to wait for the smoking gun. He says what he believes every day on Rumble, if only we would listen. All we have to do is clear away the various smoke screens that he's thrown up to blind us to the sincerity of his dark ambitions. Cancel culture doesn't work, but it's not a choice between cancellation on the one end and giving friendly interviews to Nazi sympathizers on the other. What podcast hosts need to do is confront Nick Fuentes with the malevolent viewpoints that he has repeatedly and recently expressed and arm themselves with the facts required to rebut him in real time. Or to put it differently, they need to be journalists. It's not impish contrarianism. It's not clips taken out of context. It's not irony or hyperbole, at least not in any sense that's actually exculpatory. It's a calculated and radical attempt to take over first the conservative movement and then the country. The only question now is, will the real conservatives, wherever they are, let it happen?
Yeah. That's the big thing about conservatives, and this is what sucks. This is the reality that we're in. They don't care about any of this. None of this is as important as them winning elections. So they don't mind that Nick Fuentes is on their side if Nick Fuentes brings in votes. They don't mind that, like, they're still under this illusion that what they're doing is that they're fighting for, like, conservative values, for freedom of speech and for free markets and for freedom of religion. And it's not happening. Like, it's the exact opposite. But because the attacks aren't on them, because their speech isn't being silenced, they don't recognize it. So then now it's to the point where if you push back on conservatives, they think they're being silenced. It has gotten to the point where criticism now is an attempt at silencing. SCOTUS has agreed to hear the case on birthright citizenship. What? That's a good time to end anyways on that. Oh, sorry, Jen, I don't have that CNN. Can you find me one that's not behind a paywall, Jen? NBC News, oh, you sent one. Supreme Court on Friday agreed to decide the lawfulness of Donald Trump's contentious plan to roll back automatic birthright citizenship. This is fucking insane. Of course the president can't end birthright citizenship with an executive order. This isn't about whether or not birthright citizenship should be allowed or shouldn't be allowed, because we can change that. We can change the laws and say you don't get birthright citizenship. This is the Supreme Court agreeing to hear a case on whether or not the president can unilaterally get rid of birthright citizenship. Why did they agree to hear this? The administration's legal argument presented by John Sauer is that the subject to the jurisdiction thereof language confers citizenship upon only children who are not just present in the United States, but also bear allegiance to it. It is not enough merely to be subject to U.S. law, which is how the clause has traditionally been interpreted. Yet long after the clause's adoption, the mistaken view that birth on U.S. territory confers citizenship on anyone. Wait. What's the case then? Isn't the case about whether Trump can do it? That doesn't seem like a... It doesn't seem like they're arguing that case. Long after the clause's adoption, the mistaken view that birth on U.S. territory confers citizenship on anyone subject to the regulatory reach of the U.S. law became pervasive with destructive consequences. Trump's executive order is an effort to restore the clause's original meaning. Trump's executive order runs squarely contrary to the constitutional text. This court precedents Congress's dictates, longstanding executive branch practice, scholarly consensus, and well over a century of our nation's everyday practice. They point to an 1898 case called U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark, in which the Supreme Court ruled that a man born in San Francisco to parents who were both from China was a U.S. citizen. What?
So I'm reading something. I sent a Reuters article. It says the justices took up Justice Department appeal of a lower court's ruling that blocked Trump's executive order telling U.S. agencies not to recognize citizenship of children born in the U.S. if neither parent is an American citizen or legal permanent resident, also called a green card holder.
I'm just confused by this because from what I'm reading, it sounds like they're ruling on whether or not that executive order can stand, and yet their argument is about the clause itself, which doesn't really address whether or not you can do that by executive order. You see anything on that?
So if you go to the Reuters article, second portion of it, it starts talking about the lower court ruled that Trump's policy violated the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment and federal law codifying birthright citizenship. Reuters is going into that other article that I sent a little more, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll read more on it. We'll have to figure that out. That's weird. Did you see did they say when they plan to hear it?
I
don't think it says in here.
I don't see anything quite yet. I'll keep looking.
Okay.
Don't they typically announce a lot of their rulings at specific times?
Yeah.
That might be a good Mo question.
I mean, maybe it's just a favor to Trump to hear it. I don't know. Get that out there. Yeah. That would be shocking if they let that stand. Isn't this the same argument they wanted to use to recognize the indigenous community? I don't know. They're also trying to get rid of dual citizenship. Yeah, again, like if they were going through Congress to do this, even though I would disagree with it, it's hard to argue that Congress can't change that rule. But their argument seems to be that Trump can just that they're even. I don't know how you even hear this case. That's crazy. Of course you can't do that. All right, let's move to the pipe bomber. We'll cover that for the rest of the show, and then we'll probably be done. How much time do we have? About 40. Well, we'll go a little longer probably. If you want to help how much do we have left? About that much left in the gift goal. If you can help us knock out that gift goal while we go over this pipe bomber and then maybe some Venezuela stuff, we will. Somebody said there was another boat strike today. I know I saw Pete Hegseth bragging about one, so I don't know if another one happened while we were live, but I know Pete Hegseth was bragging about one this morning. But let's do this. So first of all, let's remember that all of right-wing media, including the Blaze, specifically the Blaze, like a month ago came out and posted pictures of a woman who is a Capitol police officer who works in a different department now that's unnamed, and they gave her name, and people tracked her down, and people doxed her, and people threatened her life, and they said she was the pipe bomber. And now that's not true. And finally, the Blaze said, they came out now, and instead of issuing an apology, and instead of shutting down their fucking site, they just said, Blaze News considers fairness and accuracy to be the defining goals of any news organization. Our report posted on November 8th about the J6 pipe bombs was based on sourcing from individuals in a position to know this type of sensitive law enforcement information who have a demonstrated record of reliability and accuracy. Of note, the sources continue to stand by the information they provided Blaze News. At all times, the reporting adhered to professional journalistic standards and was published with a good faith belief in its truth. Even so, in light of Thursday's developments of the FBI's arrest of another individual, Virginia resident Brian Cole Jr., in connection with the Capitol pipe bomb incident, we consider the values of fairness and accuracy to require a retraction of this article. We're retracting it, but we stand by it. We got this entirely wrong. We posted this woman's full name, her job, and her picture. We dug into her past. We showed pictures of her as a college student. We showed pictures of her at the Capitol defending the Capitol against J6 rioters, and we're just going to retract the story while also saying that we stand by it. That's pretty fun. She better sue the absolute living fuck out of them. And this isn't going to help. So that's, remember that we already did this. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I don't know about this case. I'm having a hard time buying what they're putting out. Here's the announcement. This was Jake Tapper. I covered this because I thought we'd still be with the FBI. I thought we'd have YouTube, but it is worth pointing out that initially, and myself yesterday, we said Brian Cole was a white guy that lived in Virginia. That was the picture that had circulated at the time. So I also need to apologize and say I jumped the gun. I don't think we didn't show the picture because it wasn't confirmed, but I did say that it was a white guy yesterday.
The FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosions. CNN observed local.
It's a good point, Lees, and just like with Richard Jewell, the guy from the Atlanta Olympics, they blamed him. The media called him the bomber, and he turned out not to be. The reason I'm having a hard time with a lot of this is because of the weird way the information is coming out. This is, I don't have the article. I didn't know it's behind a paywall. But CNN, MSNBC, multiple sources now. Let me see if I can find a different one because it may be, we might have more information now. But as I started the live, the pipe bomber was alleged by apparently 2 sources close to him to be a Trump supporter. What is this? Is this it? This is from Grok, I think, confirming it. But on December 4th, 2025, the FBI arrested 30-year-old Brian Cole from Woodbridge, Virginia, as a suspect in the January 5th pipe bomb plot near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters in D.C., just hours before the riot. That attacked the Capitol was part. Why? Somebody said earlier that his lawyer is saying they're going to say that the pardon should actually cover him. I would say that it probably should, right? Oh, YouTube's down for a second. Jen says she'll get it in a sec. I mean, this. How many more times? The guy that shoots Trump, raised as a conservative, appears to be a conservative. Tucker Carlson tried to smear them as like trans, which didn't turn out to be true. The person that shot. The thing that I have questions about is the timing of all of this. On the same week that Dan Bongino, people are going, where the fuck is Dan Bongino? And there's multiple stories about Kash Patel abusing his role as the FBI director. And 80% of the people that have talked to journalists that work in the FBI saying he's pathetic. It's a rudderless ship at the FBI. He doesn't know what he's doing. Now they're coming out with this. They're saying that the second neighbors are saying that they doubted that Cole was the person recorded planting the bombs, claiming the suspect has uncommonly short legs and a simple gait analysis could rule him out or confirm him as a culprit. They're not mentioning the gait analysis. When the Blaze released the story, they said that the way that they confirmed that that person was the bomber, the same FBI was saying it was this woman because of gait analysis. But now we don't have a gait analysis here for Brian Cole. And once again, Brian Cole seems to be another lonely person who spends a lot of time on the internet. The other problem I have with this case, and let me just preface it with this, what the evidence we have now is basically what got them the warrant. So what we're seeing so far, the evidence that they've collected, is the stuff that a judge ruled was enough to get a warrant. But what they basically have is they say that the suspect was identified yesterday. He was charged with use of explosive device. Let's see. The existing footage of the suspect showed a person wearing a face mask, pieces of evidence, and tens of thousands of tips. So it's also possible, and we shouldn't rule it out, that they found somebody where they could pin it on. And that's where this evidence is like, it's kind of weirdly loose. So his cell phone was tracked near the RNC and DNC. His car was there. I remember, if Hull is here, when Hull and I were looking into this the first time, one of the things that the FBI had put out there and when they were looking for help is that they said that the pipe bomber had gone down on the subway and that they had escaped the area on the subway. I'm reading this now, and they're talking about a car, that they have his car on a license plate reader. So there's at least two different stories here that I've heard from the FBI. And I don't know what the updates are. Maybe they decided that was a bad lead. But at least a couple years ago, the FBI was saying that he had used a Metro card to get out. And that he had taken the Metro, I think, into Virginia, into the Virginia suburbs. So I don't know. That's a good point too, Joseph. Pam Bondi said there were no new tips. Dan Bongino said that there was. Now the FBI's official everything that they official statements say that there was no new tip, but weirdly Bongino for some reason said there was a new tip. So there's a lot of unfortunately with Patel and Bongino, they're so inept and they're so fucking pathetic at their jobs that even if this was all legitimate, they suck so bad that people are wondering. And nobody trusts the FBI. This isn't just like people on the left. People on the right are like, I don't know about this. The other parts were like, where they got let me just find I think I actually saved it. I didn't put it on the outline here. But the way that he acquired the materials to build this bomb allegedly, like, took place over years. So they got his records, like his credit card records, and they went through his purchases, and they basically found that he had purchased every part that possibly could exist in, or every part that he needed to make the bombs. You see here, both pipe bombs were manufactured using a 1x8 galvanized pipe with markings consistent with a particular manufacturer's labeling. Cole purchased a total of 6 pipes of this size and shape on June 1st and June 8th in 2020. So 6 months before and then 2 months before. The purchases were made at 2 different Home Depot locations in Northern Virginia, obviously like almost 6 months apart, 5 months apart. According to the manufacturer, 26,000 of these items were sold in 2020 and 22,000 were sold to Home Depot. Both of the bombs were manufactured using end caps, which were used to close the ends of the 8-inch pipe. The pipe bombs placed outside the RNC and DNC contained a mix of both black and galvanized end caps. The end caps had markings consistent with the manufacturer product labeling. Cole had purchased a total of 12 black end caps and 2 galvanized end caps from 4 different Home Depots in Northern Virginia on or about the following dates. So October 22nd in 2019. Then March 10th in 2020, June 20th in 2020, July 8th in 2020, November 6th of 2020. According to the manufacturer, 233,000 of those end caps were distributed in 2020, including to Home Depot. Both bombs were manufactured using a 9-volt battery connector attached with red and black wires. They're saying that he purchased 5 9-volts at a micro center in North Virginia on November 12th and December 28th of 2019, not 2020. So like over a year before this, including cash purchases, so batteries. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's probably enough here to get a warrant. If they don't have more than this, if they don't find more than this guy's gonna skate. There's definitely not enough for a conviction. There's probably enough, and somebody that knows more than I could maybe argue that. I think there's probably enough here for a warrant. Provider records show that Cole, the cell phone connected with provider cell phone towers consistent with Cole being in the area. On January 5th, 2021, the Cole cell phone engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions with provider towers between 7:39 and 8:24 p.m. Now, these aren't exact. This isn't tracking exact location. I don't know how precise they can get. But then this was the part that fucked me up. Like, Cole is the registered owner of a 2017 Nissan Sentra with a Virginia license plate on January 5th at 7:10. Wait. Okay, so a little bit before. Make sure that was right. Cole Central was observed driving past a license plate reader on South Capitol Street, which is less than 1/2 mile from the location where they placed the devices. Southeast at 7:34. Approximately 5 minutes later, at 7:39, the Cole cell phone began to interact with provider towers in the area. So it's loose. Yeah, I saw that too, though. So I guess that's true. I didn't think about that, but so several reports now are saying that he did place them there, but he did it in the name of Donald Trump. So then, do we pardon this guy? And everybody on the right is coming out and saying that this guy's on the left. And why do they say that he's on the left? Because he's black, but they're not racist. So the only evidence linking him to the left, according to them, is that he is black. How come they never went off? Weren't they planted at the DNC? I don't know. Nobody's answered that question yet. I don't know if Hull is here or not, but I know for sure that Hull and I, actually, let me look through our messages real quick. I know for a fact that Hull and I looked through this, and we were talking about a Metro card. If I can search in the, how do I get rid of the damn Discord? Oh, dismiss. See if I can find it in the search. No. I'll have to go back and look for it. Let me look. Enjoy the silence for a second. Boy, we talked a lot. Because we thought it was going to wind up being that weird dude. What was that damn guy's name? The guy that he was a J6er. Ivan Raiklin is who we thought it was going to be. All right, I think I found where we're close. Yeah, so this, what they're saying, this was from this Gateway Pundit. This was from January 30th. And they said, a mysterious suspect planted 2 pipe bombs with RNC and DNC. FBI continued to drip out new videos of the suspect who placed 2 pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC the night before the Capitol. Months before a whistleblower stepped forward in 2022 and disclosed that the FBI was withholding information on the investigation. In 2023, the FBI offered a $500,000 reward for any information. The culprit was caught on video but never caught by the FBI, the greatest intelligence service in the world. And then FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin reported in May 2023 that the technicians who worked on the program told them the devices were inoperable, so that they didn't work, according to the FBI in 2023. In May 2023, Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, and Bill Posey sent a letter to the FBI demanding an update as part of the investigation into the pipe bombs placed near the headquarters at the DNC, yada, 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 the community, yada, yada, yada. Where is this? The whistleblower disclosure revealed that the FBI's Washington field office had requested other field offices to canvass all confidential human sources across the country. The request specifically asked for information or sources. Where is this part? Oh, yeah. Get this. The FBI knows the license plate of the suspect's car, but no arrests. What's this here? This is the part, yeah. This was from, I think, Jim Jordan to Chris Wray. Said, your failure to comply with our request is particularly concerning given recent media reports regarding the pipe bomb investigation. According to at least one report from a former FBI agent who worked on the investigation, the FBI linked the suspected pipe bomber to a Metro Rail Smart Trip card that the subject used to travel through the Washington Metro system to a stop in Northern Virginia. The FBI used security footage from Northern Virginia Metro to stop to identify the license plate of a car that the individual entered. Still, the FBI has not identified the subject. One former FBI assistant director observed, it just doesn't add up. There's too much to work with now. You guys know who so we had a totally different story there. This wasn't Jim's story. I agree with you. He doesn't have a leg to stand on, but like that was the story that we were investigating before. So all of this stuff just doesn't make a great deal of sense. And if it's true that they had this license plate then, which they're claiming now, then they should have been able to close the case right then. Do you know what I mean? How weird this whole case is? How come all these cases are so fucking weird? How come they don't make any sense on the face? I don't remember so many like national investigations that were so goddamn confusing. Do you have any thoughts on that? Miss any here? I didn't miss any there. All right. We'll do Venezuela, then we'll get out of here. Heather said, thanks for the dollar chain. Thanks for all you do. Alfredo said, does Cole get a pardon if he did it for Trump? Probably. What's Trump's excuse if he doesn't pardon this guy? If he was doing it for Trump, how could Trump not pardon him then? You know why. Also, when Dan Bongino, when he was a FBI director, he was like, it was somebody that worked within the FBI. And now he was asked about that yesterday. He's like, when I spoke as a podcaster, I spoke for my opinion, but now that I'm in the FBI, I don't do that anymore. So when I'm a podcaster again, maybe I'll get back to doing that. We were talking about the pipe bomber, D. Smith. Is there anything else I wanted to cover on that? No. All right. Let's get into Venezuela, then we'll get out of here. I don't know if that gift goal's right. If you guys could help us knock out that gift goal in the next 15 minutes, that would be absolutely dope. It's been a fucking nightmare today. I know we don't have YouTube or TikTok to help us balance out what we need to raise every day to keep this going. So if you're able to do that, I would love it. And if you're not, we'll live. We'll be all right. But Jen will beat me up a little bit. I want to start with this clip from Jason Redman, a Republican who is also, I think, a decorated veteran. I'm fairly sure. So appreciate your service, Jason Redman. But what you'll notice with Fox News and with right-wing sources right now is everybody they're bringing out to defend Pete Hegseth is a soldier. And they're trying to tell you that, like, this is who you should listen to. Oh, when I was a soldier in Afghanistan, we did doubles taps all the time. We didn't stop and ask if the people we were firing against were okay. We just completed the mission. Two things. One, this is what's happening in international waters is not a war. Two, you're not under attack. There's no threat. And three, you don't really being a soldier. It doesn't mean that you know you know the law. Same way that being a police officer doesn't necessarily mean that you understand the law. How many times are their actions overturned? Being a soldier does not make you an expert in what is and is not okay. You're told what is and is not okay. Your commanding officer is supposed to give you a good idea of what is and isn't okay. Your training is supposed to tell you what is and isn't okay. But ultimately, the best sources are going to be people like JAG lawyers. And those people, all the lawyers, all the people who have been involved in prosecuting these cases or hearing these cases, they're all saying it seems like a war crime or a murder to me. But here's what Fox is doing, trying to, again, justify a double tap strike.
Former Navy SEAL. Jason, great to see you tonight. The Democrats seem to be fretting, to put it mildly, about the welfare of these narco-terrorists. Very worried that they're just workaday boat guys that are just hired hands, and essentially, how dare we take them out?
Nobody is saying that. That's the other thing they're all doing. They're all fucking lying. Nobody, literally nobody is saying these are just everyday people and it's not fair that you killed them because they were just doing their job. Nobody is defending the people that died here. We're not saying that they were good people. We're saying you can't kill people without due process. That's it. That's the only thing we're saying. But they can't say that. They can't bring up due process. They can't tell you what the opposition is, because people watching Fox might go, oh, yeah, that does make sense that in this country you can't just kill people without due process.
Laura, it's good to see you again. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating watching all this. Individuals who have never been to war
Thanks,
I
Johnny.
think there's an interesting thing that's been happening. I think it started to happen in the war on terror, this blurring of the rule of law and the law of armed conflict. And the reality is, in the law of armed conflict, if we designate individuals as enemy combatants, which is what we did by designating these people as narco-terrorists, the individuals they're using are combatants.
Well, here's the part he's missing here. He's talking about military operations that were approved by Congress. A war that was declared by Congress. That's the difference here. If you don't have a declared war, you can't just assign somebody enemy combatant and kill them. That would obviously be silly, right? Because then the military could just do whatever they want, whenever they want, and they said, I said you're an enemy combatant. So he's missing the part that I think all of these soldiers are missing, that there is a constitution and there is a separation of powers. And the power to declare war resides with Congress, not with the president, not with the Secretary of Defense, not with the soldiers, not with the generals. It resides with Congress.
Under the law of armed conflict, the rules of engagement that have been set down, these individuals become a clear and present threat. We have the ability to go after them.
I would also argue that there is no clear nor present threat, as this is a motherfucking drone. Who was in danger here? This is a drone. Or I guess, I take that back. It could be a plane. I think it's a drone, right? There was no clear and present danger there. Even in war, if you just see like, oh, that person might be Al-Qaeda, but they're just walking into the grocery store, you can't bomb the grocery store. You can't just bomb, like, you can't do that shit. There's rules. Somebody's got to explain to me what this clear and present danger is. Is let's just say, is an explosive device a clear and present danger? Like, if an explosive device is just sitting there, untouched, is it a clear and present danger to me? Can I kill the person who made it, even if it was made legally? Or if it was made illegally, can our police go kill them? What if it's 100 miles away from you? Can you drone strike somebody who built an explosive device? Nah, you got due process. Nobody here was in danger. Yeah, I get that. The drug, it would eventually kill Americans, which is self-defense. That still makes no fucking sense. Arrest them then. That's what we do with people who traffic drugs. We already do that. If we catch people with drugs that are with an intent to sell, we arrest them and they go to court and then they go to prison. Like, we already have rules for that. You can't just all of a sudden make up rules.
You know, it's fascinating to me, the individuals would also say, you know, oh, well, these guys aren't a threat. You know, I frequently saw.
That was the point I was trying to get to. I gave the world's worst example, Eshel. But yeah, if guns don't kill people, people do, then drugs don't kill people, users do. It's the same thing. I gave the world's worst example and it fell apart, but yours was better.
On both Iraq and Afghanistan, both the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were very good at.
That's a good point. I'm going to point out that not only did they bring on a Navy SEAL to push their narrative, they brought on a visibly wounded Navy SEAL to draw emotional support for him. They hoard him out, plain and simple. They do this all the time.
Shooting at us, putting weapons down, and then moving without a weapon, so to say they were no longer a threat. Well, they would then move to an additional fighting position, and they would pick up a weapon.
Where would their additional fighting position be, and what weapon? There's no evidence they have weapons. They were in the water, and the boat was on fire. Where's the pushback, Laura Ingram? I'm just going to smile because we are murdering brown people. I love that.
And then engage us again. The individuals on these boats, I guarantee they have weapons.
Oh, you guarantee it? And then who were they going to hurt? How high up was this drone? Who are they going to hurt here? I guarantee they have weapons. And if they shot them, they could shoot and the bullet could get all the way to America.
The narco-terrorists aren't going to allow their drugs to go out there without individuals protecting.
That's a good point. Fish can be used as weapons. I didn't think about that. Good point. They could throw a flounder at you. It's crazy. Yeah, I guarantee there's what. You know what the weapons were probably doing with the boat exploding? The weapons were probably just like floating on top of the water. They had taken the precaution to probably nukes, honestly. They probably had water-resistant handheld nukes. Thank God we took them out. Rand Paul, again, just continues. I showed it yesterday. I guess we can skip it, but Rand Paul continues to be the rare voice of reason. And Tom Cotton went out and said that the boat survivors were trying to flip the boat over and stay in the fight. What fight? This wasn't a fight. They were driving in the water and they got hit with a missile. There was no fight. And so here's Adam Smith, Representative Adam Smith, who's like, nah, dude, shut the fuck up, Tom Cotton.
But at the time of the strike, you could clearly see the two people on the boat.
And they weren't calling, radioing in, anything like that.
I mean, if they had a radio
thanks, Robin and Vicky. Appreciate you guys.
device on them, it must have been really small because it sure wasn't apparent from looking at the video, and they certainly did not appear to be signaling to anybody.
Can you square that with Senator Tom Cotton saying that they were trying to flip a boat that was loaded with drugs that was bound for the United States? Is that what you saw?
That's patently ridiculous. I mean,
that's not true in your view.
Gosh, Admiral Bradley.
By the way, this guy has seen the video. Just so we're clear here, he's not guessing. He watched the video.
Didn't even pretend that was the case. There was no way they were turning this boat back over. The boat was completely disabled, and Admiral Bradley admitted that. It was drifting with the current. It was going to go wherever the current was going to take them. And I don't know, I didn't see all 48 minutes between the first and second strike, maybe for the first 10, but it appears that the boat was split at least in half. I mean, there was this tiny little bit of the bow that was still, capsized. They weren't trying to flip anything over, first of all. Second of all, there is the claim that the drugs still could have been there. There's no real evidence of that. You see the first strike, boats on fire.
But these claims are crazy. Well, the drugs could still be there, so we have to murder some. You still can't murder people for bringing in drugs. You can't do that. That's against the law. You cannot murder people for trafficking drugs. If you want to change the rules that if somebody's trafficking drugs, you can murder them, I guess you can try and write new laws. But according to all laws that exist, that is not something you can murder people for.
Flips over, maybe in that tiny portion of the boat, but that's speculation, and it certainly wasn't clear from the video.
Yeah. It's a little bit ironic, too, that Pete Hegseth really wants to keep talking about this, because a report came out about Signalgate, and Pete Hegseth and his crew, they all went out and they said he was totally exonerated. I played I think I played it the other day, but Laura Loomer announced the night before this report was going to come out that does not exonerate Pete Hegseth. In fact, says that he failed to preserve the record, which he's required to do, and two, that he absolutely distributed classified information on an unsecure Signal chat that included a reporter. It said that he fucked up. That's what it said. But the Pentagon gave their new friend Laura Loomer an exclusive. And all she came out, she said, there's going to be a report tomorrow that totally exonerates Hegseth. Don't believe what the media says. It actually exonerates Hegseth. And now you have Republicans like Tom Tillis saying, no, it does not. I think Hegseth's head is on the chopping block, and I think that so is Kash Patel. And it's just another example of a bunch of inept people working for Donald Trump getting in trouble while Trump never gets in trouble. We tried to warn you guys. We told you, if you work for Trump, you wind up in jail or fired or disgraced, especially if you're in a position of power. He'll throw you under the bus all day long. They're probably both going to get in a lot of trouble.
Gary Hegseth is framing it as total exoneration. Is that how you view this report that came out today?
No, I think at some point, just take the learning experience.
It wasn't me said, I find I am most deadly clinging to debris in the water. It's when I'm at my most dangerous.
Experience and move on. No one can rationalize that as an exoneration. We know that mission information was outside of the classified setting that it was trusted to be in. And, Caitlin, I don't even bring a pen into a classified briefing. We obviously don't have our phones. We don't have our watches.
They were trying to swim into the submarine. And then the submarine was going to fly through the air like Free Willy and take out the drone. All right, you're right. It was justified.
Even bring a pen in to make notes, to remove any doubt that there is something that I could have dropped or put in the trash can that I forgot about, because that's how seriously you need to take classified information. Thank God nothing bad happened. Thank God the great decision that the president made to make that strike was successful, but it could have put it at risk. And why would you send the signal that maybe this is okay? Maybe you could be exonerated by leaking information before a critical mission. Just let's move past it.
Now, he's a coward. They don't want to hold him accountable. This is the weird spot Republicans are in now, where they have to be honest, but now they're starting to do this thing where like, it was bad, but let's just move on. Let's not talk about it anymore. On Monday, I'm going to talk about the 2024 election, and I'm also going to talk about the Tennessee election. And Danielle, if you're here, I'm sure you're glad to hear that. Danielle's been blowing me up, and I've been brushing her off. But we're going to talk about the election fraud that may or may not have happened. And I'm just going to be honest. I am not as convinced as others are, and I'm going to try and keep that open mind on Monday. But that's what we're going to talk about. There is some very troubling information that has come out in the Tennessee election that is incredibly alarming. As the election was allegedly like 99% closed, then all of a sudden like 30,000 votes came in. Butterbeanie. So I am aware of that. I read it maybe 30 minutes before we went live, and I didn't want to half-ass cover it. So we're going to cover that on Monday. And that's where you'll find me, on Monday. I don't know if you'll see me this weekend, maybe on TikTok. I'm going to, as soon as I get off the live here, I'm going to get on with Streamlabs and figure out what the fuck we can do about the live crashing all the time. So hopefully we figure that out. I appreciate you guys. For a smaller group today, you were very generous in helping us knock out that gift goal. So thank you very much. I saw they threw that Rockland case out. But I'll be back Monday morning with Jen every weekday morning, 8:30 a.m. to noon Pacific Standard Time, right here, always on Twitch, and sometimes on TikTok and YouTube. Take care of yourselves, guys. Go outside, touch grass if you can. If your state isn't covered in snow, try and do something besides politics every once in a while, and keep yourself informed. Stay in the fight. Take care of yourself. Stay cute and cool. Have a great summer.